Hey there, welcome back to my garden here in Western Oregon, Zone 8B. My name is Lacey and it is early October out here in my garden and we're enjoying a beautiful day before we have several days of rain. So I got to thinking, I'm bypassing school with my youngest today. He's in second grade and I told him, buddy, we're gonna take today off so that I can get as much done outside as I possibly can before the rain sets in and we have nothing else to do but school. So in case you guys don't know, I have 4 kids, I have 4 boys. The oldest is married, the second is in college and he works full time. My third is in high school, he's a sophomore, and then my youngest is in second grade. We do homeschool them, so we can be pretty flexible with it. So I told my littlest guy today, we're needing to get outside, we're needing to take in this weather before we really start to get a lot of rain. So for me, that means some maintenance out here in the garden. Also, I'm going to be doing a little bit of planting. I have a couple plants left in my stash that I want to get into the ground before the rain settles in. But there's also 2 things that really stand out to me that this time of the year really catch my eye. Weeds, obviously, as the rain comes on, the weeds start sprouting again, and then also plants that have powdery mildew. So we're on the cusp of having to cut back a lot of things just because we're at the end of the season. A lot of things are still looking good except for those things that are having the powdery mildew. So we'll be getting to those in a few minutes. I also really noticed I needed to mow the lawn. So that's probably my first thing that I need to do today before I can move on to any of the fun projects. Not that weeding is fun, but the fun projects of planting. I honestly don't know how much weeding I'm going to necessarily do today. I might just get out my hula hoe and work in some of the areas that have the little tiny seedlings coming up and see if I can at least get those under control, because I think that'll actually make quite a bit of a difference in how they take root and really start to be able to progress and grow over the fall. So I'm going to start out really quick just showing you guys the plants that we're going to be getting into the ground. In addition to that, I know that I want to take down my hanging baskets on the front porch. There's also a spot in our backyard along our back retaining wall that for some reason a lot of soil is being pushed out onto the pathway. I want to get that shoveled out so that that doesn't become a mud pit once the rain starts to come in. And I don't know, we'll see what else we come up with as the day goes on. So first things first, let's look at the plant that we're going to be getting into the ground. Then we'll get to mowing and then we will move on from there. All right, so here's our little stash, and I mean little. There's 4 violas there that I want to get into the ground. I'm just going to be planting them in, I think, right here along with these boxwoods along the edge of the grass. There's just really nothing blooming right here at this time. I guess there are a few anemones right here, but yeah, I just thought it would be a sweet place to put these last 4 that I have into the ground. And then we also have this beautiful shrub. This is a Leucothoe, Leucothoe rainbow. You can see the kind of molted leaves that have the pink variegation in them. I just think these are so beautiful. It's an evergreen and it has the ability to be kind of as you can see in the name, drooping. It can be kind of a ground cover if you keep it low enough, or it can get up to be 5 feet tall. I'm not sure what this one will do in my garden. I don't have any of these that have been in my garden for long enough to really know how they're going to handle my area, but I think it's worth a try. I got this one for like 50% off at Bauman's not too long ago, and I had it placed in a spot in my garden waiting to be planted, and it looked so pretty there that I honestly kept forgetting that it needed to go into the ground. So I think that what I'm going to do with this one is come right back here. I had a plant right here that died. I'm not really sure what it was. I think it might have been another euphorbia right there. I think I'm just going to dig that out and put the Leucothoe right there. I'll limb up the Weigela a little bit. I think it'll be, I don't know, there's not too much difference, I guess, in the leaf shape of the Leucothoe and the Weigela, but the Leucothoe is evergreen, so I think it'll be a good thing to fill this space up once the hydrangea loses its leaves, once I cut back all of this other stuff. There is a pieris here, which is also evergreen, and then a holly right here in the container. But I just think that the variegation in the leaves will be really pretty in this spot, contrasting with the primarily just green leaves of the Weigela. And also this spot is protected from the afternoon sun. Leucothoes are a plant that like shade to part sun, and so I think this will be an ideal spot for this. I'll just limb up some of those branches right there so it can have a little bit of separation, I guess, from the Weigela. I'll just probably tuck it back maybe a little bit towards that container back there that's not doing too well. But I think that'll be a really good spot for that one. So then, like I said, these violas, I'm just gonna, I thought that I had a few more, but I only have 4. So I think I'll just, I don't know, just plop them in here. These are some birch campanulas down here that obviously won't do too much this time of the year. That one right there, right here. If I had more, I'd plant more, but this is what I have, and I want to get these in the ground so that they can, I don't know, possibly continue flowering in the ground over the winter and just give me a little bit of floral interest out here in this garden. But you can definitely see, like I was saying, look at just the little bitty weed sprouts that are coming up everywhere. And I think that if I take my hula hoe and just disrupt the roots of these and kind of just lift them out of the soil, that will be really helpful. Over here too, you can see there's just so many little weeds. It's almost, well, I shouldn't say almost, it is, in all honesty, it is kind of overwhelming just to walk around the garden and see all the work that is impending and all the weeds that are trying to grow. It is a little bit overwhelming. I've got to be honest with you guys, but little by little, we'll get through it. So I did also notice today, as I was walking around kind of in preparation for what I was going to do today, that I had some deer damage. I had some deer actually come in. I'm not sure when it was. Recently, obviously, they started taking some foliage off of things, so that's kind of a bummer, but not really a big deal. Let me show you what they did. Honestly, I can't really complain because this is just a maple tree that continues to try to grow here, and they just stripped it completely of all of its leaves. But you can see what it left. It didn't bother the butterfly bush next to it at all. It didn't bother the spirea. Like nothing else around here did it bother. But it did come over here, took off a lot of the leaves off of this kind of spindly, long-growing rose. And then it left all of this stuff. Look at how beautiful this purple haze butterfly bush is. That's really, really loving its spot. It did come up here and take off some leaves on this rose also, but it left the beautiful blooms. So that was nice. Just got, as far as I can tell, just those 3 plants, but it's actually the first deer activity that I've seen in my garden all season. So I really, again, can't complain. So anyways, let's go ahead and just start with, I'm just going to get the mowing done really quick. I tried to have my older son come out and do it, but he says he has to do school, so that's fine. I will just get the mowing done really quick, and then we will move on to the planting and just kind of go from there. Well, I hit my first snag. I'm out of gas in the lawnmower. Hopefully we have, I know, hopefully we have enough gas for me to refill it. Otherwise, hopefully this is not an indication of how the rest of the day is going to go. Gas can. All right, just a quick update. Got everything mowed, and it's such a pain to mow these lawns. They're just kind of terrible. They're not actually even really planted grass. It is up on our front lawn, but this stuff down here, this was just kind of a wild patch of hay almost, I guess, before I started putting in these no-dig beds. So this grass is mostly weeds. It's very lumpy. It's really a pain to mow. I'm glad to have most of it in gardens now, so I don't really have to mow as much. But anyway, it still looks a lot better once it's mowed, a lot more tidy. So when I was coming this way, I realized, I'd used to have a couple stepping stones right here, and it kind of killed off the grass in this spot. And when I was looking out here from my bathroom window this morning, I noticed this spot was still dead. It still really needed to have something here. And I thought I better find some stepping stones so that I can easily and dryly, I guess, make my way through from this little path here, down across the grass once it grows up a little bit more again and, is wet through the fall and the winter and all that stuff, should I want to come into this garden. That's what I had intended on doing originally, and then I used those stones someplace else. So I took these stones out of the goat pasture, which is over there. They obviously didn't really need them, so I just kind of borrowed from there, stuck these two in, and then I was going to put a third down here, and then I got to remembering that I really intend on widening this bed down here. I almost started doing it. I almost laid into this project. I'd like to just kind of come in from here and cut across here. I need to lay down some lines though before I do that, so that I'm really happy, know that I'm happy with what I intend on taking out. And I thought today is not the day to do that. I need to stay on task. I need to just stay on what I intended on doing. So stopped myself from putting another stone down here because this area will really be taken out. So anyway, I just got those ones in, and then I wanted to just show you some of the powdery mildew plants that we're going to be taking out. I have some phlox here. These are white phlox, and they were absolutely beautiful, bloomed for a long time. But as most garden phlox do, these ones ended up getting powdery mildew. So I'm just going to cut these ones back, as well as this pincushion flower. There's still just a tiny bit of color on it, but for the most part, it is just laden with powdery mildew. And then I was thinking, if this gets cut back, maybe I'll be able to actually see that really pretty grass back there and the agastache that's totally laying down. But anyway, I'll be taking this all the way back. And then I also have a little bit more of the garden phlox over here, which I did cut back at one point, but all the new growth that's even come back does have the powdery mildew already. So we'll be taking those all the way back. Probably do some weeding in through here as I go as well, because there's always thistle that is coming up, unfortunately. Probably need to cut off the stems of this maple tree that the deer chewed on, and then also more of the columbine. We already cut back this columbine once this season, but it just grows back and it looks terrible again, so I'll be taking after that. I think I'll also be trimming back this rose too. It has one bud right there, but it's looking kind of lanky a little bit. I could probably take that back. And I think I'm also going to go ahead and just pull out these Supertunia Mini Vista Whites. I think that they got budworms or something. They're looking pretty cruddy. I think this area would just look a lot better if I pulled those out, forego the little bit of floral, impact that it has in the garden, just for tidying it up a little bit. So I'll be pulling those out. Probably cutting back that hollyhock that's right back there, and then I may come over here also and cut back this. This is a daylily. It's actually really pretty. Looks like there's actually some new growth that's coming out. This stuff looks nice and healthy. So I don't know. We'll see. May need to address that. Not sure what the fate is of this viburnum. Looking pretty sad, but there's new growth coming out underneath the leaves that it's shed. From far away, it looks like it's pretty fall color, but it's not. It's dead leaves. You can see that one over there is what it's supposed to look like. That's the same shrub. They're compact spring bouquet viburnum, and this one's not looking great. But anyway, that's not the order of business. I'm going to start with cutting back the powdery mildew plants, then we'll get these other things taken care of over on this side, and then move on to the next step. All right, so just a little update on how we're doing down here in the bottom gardens before we move up onto the top gardens to do just a little bit of cleanup up there, and then obviously the planting project. So we started off with cutting back the plants that had the powdery mildew. First ones being right here, being the garden phlox. And I don't know what I'll do with these guys. They're so beautiful when they bloom, but you know, we'll see when they come back next spring. If I'm constantly battling the powdery mildew with them, I don't think I'll keep them in my garden just because that's not a battle that I want to take on. I try to, for the most part, have plants that don't need a lot of care, that are pretty low maintenance, and so that's not something that I'd probably continue on with, even if they are beautiful in their blooming. But these ones, these are the pincushion flowers. Cut these back, and then there's a couple other of the garden phlox down there that I cut back as well. Also came in through here and did some weeding. I don't know why this area is just so laden with thistle. It's such a battle. You can see right in here, there's some that I missed. It's really a pokey one, and it's hard to get the entire root out, but I just kind of keep plugging away at them, getting them out as I can. But anyway, also as I was going along, I was sort of doing some weeding, a lot of just action with my foot. Honestly, with these little seedlings, I don't know if it'll work, but I kind of just go around like this and hope that possibly with the cool weather that we're having coming on, that it'll prevent these guys from, you know, re-rooting and stuff. So we'll see. I don't know. There's just a lot of little seedlings. Actually, look at these. I think these are Agastache. These ones, there's 3 of them right here. I was thinking at first that they were the Nepeta, but the leaves, they're quite a bit larger and they smell like Agastache. So I think that I'm going to let these bigger ones grow and see if I can transplant them. But honestly, if they reseed themselves as prolifically as they were in this pathway, I just went along here and I just scuffed my feet like this all the way along here, trying to uproot and disturb the seedlings enough to where they wouldn't take. That I don't know, maybe I don't want to plant more of these Agastache, as beautiful as they are. I'm not really sure that I want to deal with them reseeding everywhere. But anyway, so I also did a little bit of pruning on some Nepeta that had just a lot of old growth coming out the bottom. Sort of just cleaned that up a little bit. Took out the Mini Vista Whites from over here, and I think that looks a lot better. Obviously a lot tidier. I was having a major issue with some moles. That's why there's all this dirt on the outside of the rockery. That may have been what was upsetting the Supertunias as well. I'm not really sure. I just kind of brushed out the mole hills. This was a while back. Just brushed out the mole hills, and we'll see. Hopefully the grass kind of comes up back where that was taking place. Also over here, just cut back some of the columbine. I decided to leave some of them. This is just what I always tend to do. I left some of them because I thought that looked better than that. That was basically my thought process. I took out the ones, or took after the ones rather, that were really dry, looking really terrible, but I don't know, kept the rest of them up. Also took back some of the yarrow that was spent, just to make room basically to be able to see the new blooms that were coming out. Also pruned back the rose a little bit, took after this maple that was right here. Also did a little bit of weeding throughout this area, and also pruned back these profusion salvia, pink profusion salvia that were right here. I need to remember next year that when it's time to cut back the salvia, just to go ahead and cut it all the way back to the base. I always tend to just try to cut off the blooms, but it never reblooms as well, and it just looks really scraggly. So I need to do that next year for sure. And then I also just kind of unexpectedly started to take after some of the blackberry vines that were on this hillside. When I was mowing, I was noticing that they were really coming out a lot. I don't know, and I just kind of decided to cut some of them back, expose that fern up there a little bit, because the blackberry vines were really growing through that. Yeah, just have to come back and get that pile when I have a pitchfork, because it's obviously really pokey. Really quick, before we're totally done down here, I forgot I wanted to cut down this hollyhock and to cut back that daylily. So we'll just do that really quick. I see the deer came and got this guy as well. Did a little pruning on it for me. Okay, so we're up on the front lawn now and up in the front gardens. And I think basically I'm just gonna do some quick maintenance before we get to our planting. Here's some Veronica that needs to be cut back. It has powdery mildew. The other ones next to it are looking kind of sad too, but they don't have the powdery mildew, so I think I'll just take out this chunk. I was excited to see this little dahlia here is trying to bloom. It's just in a container back there, but it's working on getting its bloom going. So I think we'll do that, and then I think coming over here, maybe do a little bit of weeding alongside this bed, and then also over here we're going to be putting in the violas. And then I noticed up here as I was mowing that there was just some kind of sad looking annuals that I could probably cut back or pull out right back here. The Super Tunia Mini Vista Indigo is still looking really pretty, but I think that might be one right there. I don't know, maybe it broke. Yeah, might have just broken, but I can get those out pretty easy, get that cleaned out, and then there's one right there that's done. Probably cut back that verbena that's right there. And I think that was pretty much it. There wasn't too much up here. I think I might actually, though, take after some of the weeds here in this little pathway, and then maybe through our front walk. I know I need to rake this area because it's kind of getting thin in the middle with the gravel. So just quick little maintenance things up here on the top gardens, and then we'll get to planting in the Leucothoe and the sweet little violas. the maintenance up here on the front lawn. Let me just show you what we did before we move on to the funnest part of this whole project and finally get the planting done. We'll start over here kind of where we ended up. Did a lot of the little weeding through here. These were just little tiny seedlings in here, so I felt okay using the hula hoe. I'm a little concerned that using the hula hoe may be like actually bringing up seeds that will now again sprout, but I don't know. It was just the easiest way to kind of lift the seeds, and then I pulled out what I could, just removed them from the gravel. But I think the hula hoe is a really great option for seedlings that probably wouldn't really have a chance to reroot into the gravel. So I did that all along here, and I also just took my rake and kind of tried to even out the gravel as best I could. It's not the most level path, but it works, and it's helpful to just kind of re-rake the edges coming in towards the center because the dogs run through here and it just kind of makes a divot, in the pathway. I also trimmed up that grass. The dogs have been doing a really good job actually of pruning it back for me, but it's just gotten a little out of control with some of the rain that we've gotten. It just makes it, flop down a little bit too far into the path. Also just pruned back a little bit of nepeta that was coming out onto the path that was kind of dead looking. Then out here along the front, I just took the hula hoe again. I have one that's just a little handheld hula hoe that's just, short, and then one obviously that's really long that I use when I'm standing up. Went along this path, just again, roughing up the seedlings. It's mostly clover that I'm noticing in here, and just also little tiny grass seedlings. So that's just helpful to do every once in a while to loosen those up, eradicate them from the area before they really get hard rooted in. And then over here on this side, I did end up just, I don't know what was up with this one Mini Vista Indigo. It was kind of broken off at the base. The roots are still in there, but I just kind of, finished off breaking it off and removing that. It's kind of a bummer. I should probably just cover up that drip tube right there so you can't see it as well. And there was also one right back here that was dead that I pulled out, and then also cut back the Superbena. I didn't pull out the Superbena because that is a perennial and it did come back for me from last year. So I didn't want to take it out totally and risk it, wasting a chance for it to possibly come back if it did. So then all the way down here, again, just kind of took after the weeds, the little tiny seedlings. There was tons of rose campion seedlings through here. So just roughed those up, covered them up, pulled them out. If there was anything that had a more substantial root system, like a larger grass or a dandelion or what have you, I did take those all the way out. And then right over here, cut back the Veronica that was quite laden with powdery mildew. And one more thing, took after this little boxwood that I think my dog Toby probably had lifted his leg on a couple too many times and totally killed out a couple of the little branches there. So that looks much better, getting those little browned out branches off of that little off of the boxwood. Looks much better. So if I scan this way, hopefully you can see the improvement of just cleaning up those few things. Of course, mowing really helped, but also just kind of cleaning up the edges a little bit. Definitely wasn't going for perfection, just improvement, and I think we really did accomplish that. So now I'm gonna go grab the auger so that we can go ahead and get these little bitty violas in, as well as the Leucothoe that's just been so patiently waiting back there. Because believe it or not, this project has literally taken me all day. I have taken a couple breaks for lunch and stuff like that, but I've just really been out here pretty much all day, just putzing around the garden, getting all of this stuff done. So I'm excited to finish it up with getting these plants into the ground. Oh, and you also saw too, I did just water the hanging baskets up there. They still have enough color on them and they don't have bugs or anything like that. So it's really, they've just taken a turn just because I haven't been watering them. So I'm gonna give it a couple days of watering them, seeing if I can get them to rebound, because they could last me well through October, possibly into November. So I should try to give them a little bit more of a chance. So got those guys watered. We'll cross our fingers that they rebound. If not, it's okay. They've been up there since I think May. So they've given me a good long haul. So anyways, gonna go grab the auger and my biotone, and then we will get these plants in the ground. plants are in and they look great. The Leucothoe is just tucked in there, just looking so cute. I don't know, I'm excited to have this one in the garden and excited to see what it does with the variegated leaves. I'm just such a fan of the leaves that have kind of that dappled look to them, especially when it involves pink, and the little, little new growth on the leaves has that pink tint also. I just think that this one is really pretty, and I'm excited to watch it grow in and fill up this spot right here. And over here we have the sweet little violas. Not too much to see. Of course, it would be better if I had a couple more, but I just had a few left of these. I actually had one more, but it came out a different variety, so I don't know where I'm going to put that one. But still, it's really nice to have just this pop of bright, cheery color down here in this swoop. If I did come across a couple more, I'd probably get one for right down here, and then maybe another one here and another one here. That would look really sweet. But they're just a great addition. I'm just glad to have everything in the ground that I have, especially right before the rain is supposed to come. So with that, I am done for the day. I am so glad to have gotten all of this stuff done. It makes me feel like the next couple days when it's raining, I don't feel guilty for having to be inside, stuck inside, not being able to be out here working, because I got a full day's of work in, got lots of things cleaned up and cleaned out, spiffied up, planted in, and that just makes me really glad, makes me want to welcome the rain, makes me want to welcome the days to just sit inside and read and do school with my boys, and all of those fun fall, cooler weather, rainy weather things. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it's inspiring to you to get out and do some work in your yard when you are able to and the weather permits. And I really hope you guys are enjoying your fall. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for hanging out with me, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.